Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. So today I noticed on Facebook, on a lot of the flower groups, a lot of people were doing lilac. So I thought, well, why shouldn't I do lilac? I haven't done lilac before, and there's only one way to do it. Have a go. So today I'm going to show you my simple way of making lilac. As you know, all of the flowers that I do on in my videos are all meant for putting on cakes. So some flowers can be quite complicated. What I try to do is to do a simplified version of. These are not a simple flower to do, but it's the simplest way of doing it. So I'll take you down to my board. Right, so the cutter that I'm going to use is this one here. I don't know whether you can see that or not. If I put it on my pad and lift it up there, it's actually one of the cutters from these sets that come with that people can buy, that come in with veiners like these. I'm not sure which one this one's out of. I have got a veiner in here that belongs to it somewhere. Not sure which one. Oh, that one there. Yeah. So that would be used in that one, which is a 4-petal veiner. I bought these as a set. Well, some of them as sets. And I thought, oh, that's ideal. So rather than going out and buying a special cutter for making lilac, I wanted something that was fairly simple. I'm not going to do any veining on it because it's such a small flower. Even if people are inspecting it closely, they're not going to see any veining on it anyway. If you want to spend a lot of time making them ultra realistic, you might want to do some veining on them. So what I'm going to do is I've got some white 28 gauge wires here. So I'm going to cut that into 4. So I've got 2 wires here that I'm doing because I'm going to do some buds and everything else. Quite a lot of elements to a lilac flower. So what I need to do first of all is start off by, for the first flowers, I'm going to put some stamens in. Now, if you look online at pictures of lilac, because it's obviously at this time of year, because we're just into the first week of February, there aren't any in flower, so I can't go and see a real flower. But if you go look online, if you put lilac in, put lilac pictures in, loads of pictures come up, so you can have a close look at them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 of these. They're called micro stamens, these small ones. I use these a lot because they come in handy for so many different things. And if I show you against my hand like that, and then what I'm going to do is I'm going to get 2 of them and fold them in half like that. Now I want all these levels to be, these stamens to be level, so if you just push them down and get them all as level as you can. Then I've got some green, this is the Nile green florist tape, or Stemtex, which is the make that I'm using, which is the one that's like crepe paper and then it stretches, it's embedded with glue. So I need to find out which is the gluey sticky side, which is that side because it's stuck to my finger. Turn it over, and if I start it off at the top of my wire, or as close to the top as you can, nip that in with your nails and roll it so that that's attached to your tape. Then you stamens want to come pretty low down. You just basically want a very small section showing at the top there and start that off. So if I start that off and roll down a little bit, you can see how much of the stamens I've got showing there. So I'm going to tape that all the way down to the bottom. So that's covered. Now with a lot of other things like your buds and things like that, you might have to cover those as well. I'm doing it with the tape because everything is going to be the same colour. You could, if you wanted to, because there are a lot of pieces to do, just dust your wires. You could use white tape to do it on, or it's up to you, it's your flower. Everybody's got different ways of doing things like that, so there's no right way or wrong way. the best way is your way that looks like the flower that you're going to do. And this is why there are so many videos on here on YouTube showing you different flowers and how different people make them, you know. And I mean, everybody's got their own way, and as I said before, there isn't a right or a wrong way. As long as the flower looks like the flower you're going to do, you pick the way that is the easiest or the best way for you to do it. Right, so now I'm using the flexible paste that I showed earlier on couple of weeks ago, and I find where I've here it is. And what I've done is I've coloured it with some grape food colouring from Sugar Flare, or whatever make you're using. And I haven't got it too dark, I've got it fairly light because we're going to dust it to the colour we want. You basically want a background colour. It's like when you're doing leaves, don't do the green, too much green in it and make them too dark. It depends on what kind of leaf you're doing. You can put more colour in if you want a darker coloured flower, as long as it's lighter than the colour that you want it to finish up being. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a small piece of paste. Now the one thing that I'm going to use here is one of these pads here, which is the I'll just bring that up a little bit further up that way, that's it, which have got the holes in them. Now, a lot of people buy these pads and don't know what the holes are for. And basically, I'm just about to demonstrate what they're for. So I'm going to start off with the flower. So I'm going to start off with a ball of paste. Try and get any cracks out that you can out of your paste. Then roll with, preferably with the side of your finger like that, to make the back as thin as you can get it. Make it a decent length like that, and then with your finger, your first finger and your thumb, go around it and stretch that out. This is what they call a Mexican hat back. I know that you've probably seen me do this before if you've watched a lot of my other videos, but I mean, we get a lot of people that are watching the first time, so they need to know why we're doing this and what it's called. Right, so once I've done that, I'll just get rid of that out of the way because we don't need that just yet. Onto the board, and I'm just going to get a little bit of white fat on my hand, rub that on there so that it sticks to the board. That's what I wanted to do. Now I'm going to use 2 cell sticks here when I find what I've done with them. Lurking underneath somewhere, one's that, and I should have a smaller one somewhere. Oh, there it is. I knew I'd put it somewhere ready. So I'm going to use both of these cell sticks. The reason I'm going to use this one first of all is to get started. Now the reason I need the narrower one is because when I've rolled it out like this, I need to be able to get right into the base of the paste there to roll it out. And because of the size of the stick, I can't get right in under there, which you will see in a minute. So I'm just get that rolled out like that. Then I'm going to go on to the smaller one, which means I can get it even closer to the base there and roll that out and get this really thin, going all the way around. If you just check to see if you've got any thick bits around the bottom there, just get right in with your rolling pin like that. And this flexible flower paste, you can get really thin with this. And it stays more flexible if you get it thinner as well. So then get the cutter. Now try this over the top of your centre. Now that fits over quite easily. Cut the petal out like that. Then take away the excess paste. So you've got this tiny little flower here. If I just get my white pad and put that underneath there so you can see it. Right, so then I'm going to bring in the pad with the holes in. So what I'm going to do is the back of that is going to go into the hole like that, so that those petals are now flat on the pad. Just put that paste over there because I need that in a minute. And then I want my small ball tool. When I find what I've done with it, it was here. There, right under my nose. I'm going to use the large end of it to go around the edge of my paste, I find with this soft paste, I'm doing this straight away. You might be as well cutting a few out when you're doing this, because this doesn't dry out as quickly as ordinary paste. You might find it easier to do your edges if you leave it a little bit before you do this, because sometimes it can split and stick to your pad. Then I'm going to go into the centre like that to cup that up a little bit. Just pull that back up again, and then with the small end of the ball tool I'm going to pull in like this down each of the petals, which will cup your petals up like that. So now we've got the cup flower. Then I'm going to go around each of the petals and just give it a pinch to bring it in a little bit, like that. Just gives it a little bit more shape. Now then, before I do that, and I didn't do this first, I want to dust the top of the petals. So I'm using it's a colour I was given actually by one of my students who didn't want it. It's called Lemon Tart from Rainbow Dust is this. I don't normally use their colours, but I just happened to have it, and it just happened to be the right sort of yellow that I wanted. So a bit of kitchen roll, and somewhere here I should have a brush that I've used for yellow. There it is. So I'm just going to pop that down there. Little bit of the colour. You could use a primrose colour or anything like that, anything that's this sort of yellow. I've probably got another one this similar to this yellow in my normal range of colours. And then I'm going to dust the top of these stamens to make those yellow. You could use a deeper colour if you wanted to. Right, so once I've done that, I'm going to get my small ball tool again. Oops, just knocked my colour over there. I'll have to move that somewhere. Try not to do that when you're doing yours. Like I say, I don't edit out mistakes if I do something wrong. Go into the centre and just cup that up a little bit. Like that. Then get your centre into the centre, twist it in so that your stem tech doesn't unravel, and pull the flower, the centre right down into the flower until you've just got the petals showing, the stamen showing like that. Then roll it between your fingers like that to make sure that's secure on your stem. Now then you can put that to one side to dry. So if you just bear with me a second, I'll just try and get some of this colour back into here. That's not so bad, I got most of it in. Well done. I'll give myself a pat on the back, and I'll close that up so that I don't do that again. Right, just get that brush out of the way. Get rid of that piece of pad. Now then, I've done some with the centres. These have already been coloured. So I've done some with the stamens in the centre, and then I've done some that are more closed up without the stamens in. So these are going to come higher up on the flower, and that's going to be lower down. Is that the one I've just done? That's the one I've just done. Just put those two together because they're ready for dusting. Right, now then, I also need to do the same thing again now. So roll out your ball of paste. Again, roll it with the side of your finger to get a decent size back on it, between your finger and your thumb, and go around the outside of the paste like that to make your hat. So basically it's like a witch's hat. We call it a Mexican hat. I don't know why we call it a Mexican. It doesn't look like a Mexican hat, it looks more like a witch's hat. But it's always, when people are learning from tutors, then we've always called it a Mexican hat. So then onto your board with your fat, and with the larger of the two cell pins, roll it out to get that started. Just going to bring that up a bit straighter, like that, and then go in with your small cell pin so you can get right up to the base to roll that out. I need some white fat on there because it's not sticking. There we are, that's better, much better. And you get right into the base there to get it as thin as you can. Now if it's not as thin as you want it to be, you could at this stage take that off of there and just roll that again between two fingers like that, just to make that thinner, and then back onto your fat and get that going again. There we are, that's better. Now because I haven't got quite as much there, I've got a bit of a gap. Just be careful when you're putting your cutter on as to where it's going to go. So I want the piece that goes in there so I can get it either side of it and cut that flower out like that. That's stuck in the cutter, so just pop that out like that. Get rid of that paste, that'll come in handy for doing the buds. Now again, I've got the same stage as I had with the first one. So again, that's going to go into the Mexican hat hole, that's what the holes are called, and go around the edges to thin those off like that. And then again, like I did before, I'm going to pull the petals in like that. Go into the centre, and what I'm going to do now is to make it come up more, get right into the centre and just pull that paste in like that down into the centre, and that makes your petals come up more. You can see that from the back. Use it on my white pad so they come up, and then you can pull those up. Whoops, pull those up a bit more like that. Now what I'm going to do here, I covered my wires afterwards, so I'm going to do it the way that I've done it right from the beginning. So I'm going to put a tiny little hook on the end of that wire like that. Then that goes down into the centre of the flower, so it comes out of the bottom of your flower like that, and pull that down. I'm just going to make that a little bit closer, that's it, right down into the paste so it disappears. And what you can do then is go into the centre and just adjust your paste to get rid of the hole with your small ball tool. So I've got quite a closed up flower there, and then again with the back sides of your fingers roll the back on, so make sure that's well attached to your wire so that's not going anywhere. And then you can put that to one side to dry as well. I'm just going to put that in there. That's a soft one, so we'll put that behind my others. Right, the next part is the bud. So I'm going to get another wire, another white wire. Now you only need a small ball of paste for this because they are quite small. You don't want your buds as big as your flower, and even if the buds do get quite big on the flower, sometimes I find doing them in either, if you're using flour paste or porcelain or whatever you're using, I don't look like really big buds. I always make them smaller than they are because I think they tend to look a bit better when you're making something, otherwise they can look a bit artificial. So start off with a small ball of paste like that. This is about the size of a garden pea, and again rolled back. This would be the smaller bud because I have done them in various different sizes. So I can start off with smaller buds at the top and then gradually work down with more. I've only done a few. I haven't done quite as many as you could do, but I mean it depends on what stage of the flower you want it to be in. Now with this one, I haven't put the hook on it. What I've done is I've glued the wire. Now as I say, it depends on what kind of paste you're using. Some are quite sticky but some aren't, and people have a habit of having things coming off the wires, so just for the sake of argument I'm gluing it so that if you want to be on the secure side, and then we need to get into the bottom of that bud there and put the wire up it like that, so it's far enough up, and then roll your paste onto your wire again like that. You're going to have to come back and redo this again, and what you need then is your cutting wheel. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to divide this into 4 now with a little crack there, so I'm going to start there on that crack and divide that on that side, turn it round, go to the opposite side and bring that up and then across the top. You're nearly cutting into it, that's what you're doing with this. So again, in between those two, come up again to the top, turn it over, up to the top, and then go across it. Now you can go back into it again when you've done this and just spend a little bit of time just making sure that you've got a definite separation there in your bud. So just get my white pad across so I can show you that, if you can see that. And then with my fingers I'm just going to push it down a bit so it's sort of more or less round rather than pointed, and then again go to the back, roll the back, and that's ready to put to one side to dry. And you need to do quite a lot of those. I'm not going to tell you how many to use, but when I come to put it together then I'll go through the numbers then. So put that to one side to dry. Now as I say, you can do various different sizes in those. Now I have done some leaves to go with the flower as well, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Oh, wrong bag. That bag. Put my lilac paste away, seal that up, roll it up. Make sure you get the air out when you're doing this. Get some green paste out. Now I have sent off for a veiner for this because I didn't have a veiner for doing lilac leaves. So the veiner that I'm using is this one, and it's from, hang on a second, I'll tell you exactly. It's from Sugar Design. That's how it looks if you're going to look for it online. That's the one there. It's the same make that I use for the rose veiner that I've used for veining roses. And she does cutters as well, but they are plastic cutters. But she also stocks Alan Dunn's range of metal cutters as well. That's something new that she started doing. So if you're interested in that, that's where to go for that. What I'll do is I'll put the website link into the details below the video. So I'm only going to cut a couple of leaves out. Now the cutter that I'm going to use is a simple leaf cutter, which is this one. And I've used 3 sizes for doing the leaves. Just need a bit more white fat on there. I'm only going to cut a couple of leaves out because we're not going to do, you know me, I've got all my bits and pieces already. I don't need to spend loads of time making leaves, because you've seen them in all my other videos. They're all made the same way. The only difference is the cutters that you're using and the veiners that you're using. So I'm using my ridge rolling pin here, which is my little toy that I do all my centres with. So I've got a ridge, that's just there so I can put the wires in, but I can get it into fairly thin paste. Not everybody can do that. I'm just going to cut a couple of leaves out, so make sure you ridge up the centre. If you haven't got one of these, then obviously the best thing to invest in is a cell board, or any board that's got a groove side to it. And I can't see where I've put my board, I've put it away somewhere. Just cut one out at a time, but always if you're using the groove side of the board system, then make sure that you roll your paste out, take it off the board, turn it over so you can see your ridge, and then cut it out. Don't try and cut it out while it's still stuck to the board. I'm just going to do a medium one and a small one. So I don't spend too much time doing them. Now, to do these I did use a green wire for these, so for that I need a 28 green wire, and I can't see one, so I'll use a 26. It's the next nearest one I've got. So I need to stock up on my wires, so rather than stopping and having to go get some more wires. So again, I'm cutting it into 4. It doesn't matter if they're not exactly the same length, as long as you've got enough length on it to insert into your leaf and to tape together. So I usually go probably about at least 2/3 of the way up a leaf, just in case, because as I've said before, if you break one of your leaves, if your wire is far enough up, it's a lot easier to repair it. If it's on the wire, if you've broken it and it's off the wire, then they're a lot more difficult to repair, because you can't get it to keep together when you... So there we are, we've got those two. So we'll go on to my white pad, just put those wires to one side there, get rid of my scissors and my cutters. Then I'm going to go on to my ball tool and do the edges. Oops. So I've got a nick out there where the aphids have been at it. Don't worry if things aren't perfect, because all sorts of things happen in your garden. We're not trying... Sometimes it looks better if they're not perfect, because nothing is perfect in nature. So we should always remember that. Sometimes in competitions people go to a hell of a lot of trouble to make holes in the leaves and things like that to make it look as though the aphids have been at it, and it does add a lot more realism to whatever it is that you're doing, especially when you're doing it in competitions and they can see why you've done that. So I'm going to get the veining out and get your leaf with the ridge side there, goes into the ridge side down like that, and then the top of your veiner on, give it a good press, and there's the leaf vein there. I'll shape that in a minute. I'm just going to put this one, I'm just going to bring that down a little bit more there, just readjust that a little bit and put that into there like that. Just play about with it just to try and get it a little bit neater. Give it a good press, and then what I'm going to do with them both is to nip them up the centre like that. Now it doesn't matter if you've got a wavy end on them, because that's how the leaves grow. So you don't want your leaves too neat up the side. We don't want a straight leaf because they don't look realistic. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put those into my foam. So the way I've put them into the foam is there. Just dropped it in to the little hollow like that. And I did notice on the pictures of the lilac that I found online that some of the leaves curve back. So if you want to curve them back, You can always do that to make it look a bit more realistic, like that. Just pop it on your foam just to leave it to dry. Right, so we've done the buds, we've done the different flowers and things like that. So now I'm going to get onto the colouring side of it. So I've already got some kitchen roll here with all the colours on that I've used. I think this purple colour that I've used is called, I'm not sure whether this is lilac or whether it's iris, I think. One of the colours from Edible Art. But as you can see, a lot of my labels get discoloured over time, especially when I was teaching at college with the students. If they were borrowing my colours, they made a right mess of my pots. So some of the labels I can't read. But basically it's sort of like a mid-lilac colour. Not the lightest of lilac, sort of an in-between colour. But lilac does come in all sorts of different colours, so it's up to you. Some are very light, some are almost deep purple, some are white. So if you're making this flower, it's up to you what colour you want to finish it with in the end. So I've got some here that I've got ready to colour. I've got a flower with the stamens in and one without, and I'll use the bud that I've just made to colour that, because I already coloured all of my buds. So if I get my brushes out, where's the one? I should have one here. I think, was it that one? I've just used one for lilac, so I thought I'd left them all out, but I might have put it back. Never mind, use that one because that's had red on it. So I'm mumbling to myself again, aren't I? Well, not really, because I'm talking to a camera and you can't hear. You're not listening to me life size. So anyway, what I've done with these is that some of the buds, some of the smaller buds that are going to go at the top, if I can get hold of one of these, I've dusted green up from the bottom and then just a bit of the lilac on the top there, and then as your buds are going to come down, then you can make them more lilac. So I can use this one because obviously, although it's still soft, when you're using this flexible paste it's still usable. So what I'm going to do with that is do all over the top with the colour and then just bring it down the stem. Not right to the bottom, but I've left that a little bit lighter, if you can see that. Just get my white pad. So we'll pop that to one side and then onto the flowers. These have already been dried. This one you can go all the way into the centre, because you don't have to worry about the stamens because it hasn't got any stamens in it. And just bring all your colour. You can brush both ways on the petals when you're doing this one. It's just the way you'll see when I do the one with stamens in, you have to be a little bit more careful. And because these are so flexible, I made these yesterday, you can adjust your petals the way you want them to be as well. Then I'm just going to pop that down there, get a bit more colour on my brush, and then bring the colour down from the edge of your petals down the back. One of my followers did notice these on here when I did my last video on tips on making rose centres, and he was dying to know what they were for, and as I messaged him and told him that we were going to do the lilac. So that's that done, and then onto the one with the stamens in the centre. Just be careful with this. I find it better to brush it sideways and from the centre upwards rather than downwards when I'm doing this, to try and miss getting the colour on the stamens in the centre. I don't go quite as heavy on the colour on this either, because the more that flowers are open, the lighter that they can seem. I'm still using the same colour, so it still matches up. It's just, if you go too heavy, you can end up spoiling your stamens in the centre and getting dust all over them, because it does fly everywhere. Anybody that's used it a lot knows that when you come to clean your tops down, they might not seem as though there's any in there, and it's flown all over the place. And when you try to clean it, it spreads it out everywhere. Then if you just turn it over like I've just done with the one with no stamens in, and then do the same on the back, brush down from tips of your petals down the back. There we are, so that's that one dusted. So those are the 3 different sections. I'll just put that green paste away that I've left out. Where's my bag? That's the bag it goes in. I'd forgotten I'd left that out. I used to get into trouble when I was first learning how to use it for not covering my paste up and leaving it out. Maureen, who taught us, used to come down and slap you on your hands if you left them out. She was a bit old school. That's one thing I never did with my students, but you just explain to them to make sure that you put it away. Right, so that's that. When it comes to colouring your leaves, the colour that I've used here, where have I put it? There. Is Spring Green from Edible Art, which is sort of like a mid-green. So I've got my green brush here. Then I've brushed all over. Now when you're making these leaves, when it comes to colouring, now on the actual, this is still soft as this, so it's not taking the colour as well. I might have to put a bit more powder on there and just see what's happening here. There we are, it's a bit better. And then turn it over without putting any more powder in your book and brush it over the back. So I'm just going to pinch that back up again like that, because that's still soft. And leave that. Normally I let them dry, but I'd already coloured all my leaves, that's why I'm doing it with a fresh one. And then leave that to dry. Now on the actual leaves on the tree, I haven't done it with these, because if you've got time to spend doing it, then that's fine. But when you're doing them to put them on a cake, as I would, you have to make things as quick as possible, and people aren't going to pick you up on little details like that. But the veins are lighter colour, so what you can do is get a very, very fine brush, probably about 4 notes or more if you can, which is basically a whisker, and then with a bit of isopropyl take the colour off on the veins. But I'm not good at doing straight lines, so I'm not going to do it, because they never look right when I do it anyway. Before you varnish your leaves, and I have varnished those as well, so that I've got a shiny finish on the ones. These are the ones I made yesterday, so you can see they've got a nice shine on them. Right, so once you've coloured all your bits and pieces, then we can get rid of that in my bin, get rid of my brushes out of the way, and then we can start putting everything together. So what you need to do now is to sort all your flowers and everything all into groups. So if I get all my flowers, as you can see I've made a load here. I will tell you how many I've got here when I've done them, but you can do more if you want to do a bigger flower. That's up to you. Right, for the flowers with the stamens in, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 flowers there. And then for the other pieces, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I've missed covering one there. I've just dropped one on the floor. Just dropped one of my buds. Oops. And I've left one there to cover with stem text, so I'll do that in a minute. So what have we got there? 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. You could do more if you want. We'll see how big this turns out, because they do have a lot of flowers on them. And then the buds are sorted sizes. Now I'm just going to sort these out into different sizes. These are going to be the ones that are lower down. That one I need to cover. That's got a bit of green on it. These are going to be the top buds. On the picture the buds all look to be all purple, they didn't show any green, but I just thought doing that on them can make it look a bit more. See, we have to use artistic license when we're doing things like this, because if you do things exactly as they are in nature, where leaves are flat or petals are flat or anything like that, they can look very artificial. So sometimes we have to mess about with them to make them look a bit more realistic and a bit more movement in them. So there I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 buds that I've done that have got green backs on in various different stages. Then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 buds without the green on, and they've totally turned purple, ready to start opening. And then I've got another one here which is totally purple, which I'm going to cover because I didn't do that. I mean, I'm sure that a lot of people have seen me doing this, but I'm using Nile green tape. I'm just doing exactly the same thing as I did attaching the stamens. So stretch your tape, find out which is your sticky side, that side, tuck it round, pinch it in with your nail like that, neat into the, and then start rolling between your first finger and your thumb, and keeping it at an angle from this side, but keeping it tight so it stretches the tape at the same time to release the glue. Get that going, and then push that up so it's right underneath the bud and not showing any white of the wire underneath. And then when you get nearly to the bottom, you can take it off, because that's going to be covered over anyway. We're not going to show all that much wire, and that can go in with those. So then we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 of those buds. Right, so assembling. Now you could, if you wanted, start off with a thicker wire to assemble. I'm just going to have a look and see if I've got one already cut that I can use. I usually have bits of wire knocking about somewhere. Have I got any over there? What's that one? No. Right, I'll get one out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to get a 20 gauge wire, because remember the flowers are on wooden stems anyway, so it doesn't matter if you go thicker with this, because the wires are going to build up on it anyway. But I may not have enough strength to for the weight of the flower when I get them all together. So if you put them onto a thicker wire to start off with, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this wire in half. So that's going to be my stem. That's more than big enough for this. So I'll get should get all my flowers and leaves onto that. So if I start at the top and start to tape that, stretchy tape, see which is your sticky side, that side. Turn it over. Start that almost at the top there. I'm just going to bring that up right to the top there. And then put your first bud in. Find out which is your smallest one, which is that one there. So I'm going to go in first. Then I'm going to put, just come down a little bit. Then I'm going to put 2 or 3 buds lower down. I'm just tilt the camera up so you can see what I'm doing here. I'm being more aware now of going off camera because I get played pop with by people because they can't see what I'm doing. Bring those round like that. Those are going to be quite close in. Come down a bit, and then I'm going to put one in lower down there, and we'll start off with the ones that haven't got any green on the bottom. So if I start off with whichever is the smallest, and just add those in. That's a soft one. Bring that further down. Put another one in down there. Go down a bit further, put some more in. I just want to get some attached in first before I start doing anything with the buds. And of course, you go further down, each row needs more buds in it. So what I'm going to do now is I'm just going to tape down with those to keep those in position. And now I can adjust the buds and bring them out a little bit so that they're so that's the top of the flower there. Go back in with my tape. Find out which is the sticky side. That side. Then I can start putting in the partially open flowers. Once you've done one of these, if you do an experimental one, you'll have an idea of how many flowers you want to put in. But I mean, I'm sort of winging it, as they say. Oops. Tape's broken off. Start that off again. Now what I can do with the next layer, because we're going further down and the flower sort of comes out, I'm going to leave a little bit of the wire showing, so these are going to come out. Although I'm putting them in more or less at the same level, I'm leaving a little bit of wire on, so when I pull them out they'll be a little bit wider out than the other flowers, so you get that sort of cone shape. So if I put all those partially open flowers in there, like that, and tape down a little bit, then we can start putting in the ones with the I'm leaving even a bit more wire, getting them up at the same level, because then they're going to come lower down, but they're going to come out. Try and keep your tape at the same level while you're putting these in. So you've got enough around there, I've got enough around there, so I'm going to tape down a little bit further. And then the next layer, same level again, but showing more tape this time, more stem. See how many we've got in there. Get one more in. At that level. Right, then tape down a bit further. And the same thing again. You can go slightly lower than your other flowers with this one. That way you can see which is that particular row that you're working on now. This is one of the advantages of having this flexible paste. You're less likely to be knocking petals off when you're doing this. Just one left. Can go in there. Right, I'm going to tape down with this now. Now, as I say, if you wanted to do your flower bigger than this, you can do. This is just mainly for demonstration purposes. If I was actually making a lilac, I probably would put more in. But if I was doing it in a demonstration, it'd be more hours of you watching it, which could get a bit boring. Take that down. Right, so now what I can do now is to start pulling the flowers out. Just very gentle with your petals. If you're using normal flower paste, just be careful here when you're pulling them out that you don't break any petals off. And try and get your next row in between that row. Just bring that down a little bit further. Then bring your buds out, but you don't want to go too far out with these because they want to be a bit closer into your buds. I mean, some of the flowers that I've seen, all the flowers are opened up right up to the top, so it's your flower. It's up to you how you want it to be and what stage you want it to be at. So that's the flower already put together like that. As I say, if you want to make it bigger, you can put a lot more in. You could put more buds in, or you could put more flowers in, whichever way you want it to be. So, oh, I've got a flower here that I've missed. Missed one. Never mind, can't see where I can put that in. So we'll leave that to one side. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put some leaves in as well. I might have to cut some more tape. I'm not sure whether I'm going to have enough here. The leaves grow in pairs, so if I get all my leaves out, the different sizes, one of them, that's a big one there. Not sure about, I think that's a spare one. I've got a spare one in that as well. You can always put them together. And some small ones. So I'm going to start off by putting the small ones in. Tape down a bit further. Put two more small ones in. You just give a bit of wire on the end there, so it's going to stand out. So when if you look at your flower from the top, I'll just show you in a minute. Just get this in, and that one. Just pull those down so that they stay nice and firm. So when you look at it from the top like that, you can just see the leaves under the flower. So go down a bit further. You need to keep your tape really tight to stop the leaves from moving about. Just pull them in so that they're nice and firm. Tap that one up a little bit there, and that one. And then we go in with, I'm going to go in between those now a little bit, so I'm not going to stagger them too much, keeping the next layer of leaves below the first ones that I put in, because we want the leaves to be seen, and nature has its own way of doing things. So I'm going in between. Bring that around there. That's it. You can adjust them around once you get them all in where you want them to be. Come down a little bit more, then put another two leaves in. You pull the wires down a bit so that you can get your leaves in a bit tighter. It stops them from moving around. If I can find which one's which. That one. I'm just going to tape down with this bit of tape now, because I need some more tape to put the last ones in. Once you've got them in, you can adjust them where you want them to be. I don't think I've got any more tape cut. No, I haven't. Where's my tape? It's dark green. Ah, found some. I have got some already cut. That was handy. I'll just start that off. Underneath that. and we can put the large ones in now. I'm not having the leaves sticking out more, but they will appear to stick out more as you go down, as the leaves are getting bigger. So you don't really need to leave any more wire on each of the petals than the layer you've done before. Just pull that one down, that's it. So that's there, so that wants to go in there. And then the last two to go in. Just remember to keep straightening your tape out while you're doing this, so that you don't get any kinks in it. Just try all your wires now to see that everything's all in nice and tight. And tape down. Right, once you've got it down to the bottom, then you can adjust your leaves as you want them. And there we are, one lilac head. So I hope you've enjoyed this video, and you come back and see me in the next video. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you're not already subscribed, and give us a like if you like what I'm doing. It's always nice to know. And if you've got any comments about anything or anything that you'd like to see, don't forget, as I've said before, leave that in the comments below as well. And I look forward to hearing from you all. So take care, stay safe. See you soon.